What's up guys, I'm Ben, and today we're going to be doing something we haven't done in a while on this channel. We're going to wrench on the car. Okay, this might be a little big. So my car is normally very reliable, but there's been 2 times in the past several events where, dang, it is really dirty, where it has just given me issues. And what's happened is the alternator quit charging the battery, and then the battery ran out of charge. One time that left me stranded, and I've got the video on that. But the second time was actually our last event at Stroud that I was able to drive in. And for that event, it barely made it onto the trailer and barely made it into the house. But it was the same problem. So I'm going to take a little closer look at that today, and hopefully we can try to get that fixed. Also, today's video shout out goes out to Slideways Garage hooking me up with the shirt. So thank you guys. That is Dakota and Daniel. I think there's a third guy in the team that I'm not sure if I've met or know very well, but they are on Insta and YouTube, so check them out. So the last time that this happened, I just pulled the alternator off and replaced the whole thing, figuring that it was bad. But I can show you guys what I'm dealing with. Alright, so normally, I don't remember exactly how this goes, but you've got your alternator, it's got a plastic cover on it like this, and on the back is this terminal, which is where your charge wire goes onto. So the first time this happened, I decided to just replace the whole alternator. I was in a little bit of a time crunch, and that was the easiest thing to do. But when I went to remove the charge wire, you know, there's a nut that holds it on, and I would try to remove that nut and the entire shaft spun. So I tried to remove the nut off of this, and instead of the nut turning, the whole shaft turned. As you can see there, it's able to turn a little bit. So that was weird. I was able to see that there was a machined section in here, but it's quite low and I couldn't actually get a wrench on it over this little plastic guard. So I ended up getting my Dremel out and cutting this guard apart so that I could get to the whole thing. And come to find out, this was loose feeling. So I thought perhaps it had actually like broken. But I didn't think anything of it at the time, and I just replaced the alternator. However, the same thing happened again, just like 2 or 3 events later, which granted was like a year ago because we had the off season. But this thing didn't break, it just threads out. So looking at this alternator a little bit more closely, I realized the same thing has happened with my current one that's still mounted on the car. The shaft that the charge wire goes to has become loose for some reason, and it's also not charging. So of course the first thing I'm thinking is, can I tighten that back up, and will that cause it to resume charging normally? Looking at the alternator a little bit, it's pretty weird. I don't know a whole lot about the inner workings of alternators other than just the conceptual, but here's what I have to assume. So this plastic cover is on here for a reason, I'm sure, and I don't think it's just to keep dust out. And looking at this, we've got the wires in here, and up from them come these, and they connect to this. It's not metal. I'm not really sure what this sucker is. And they're also maybe isolated by this piece of plastic that keeps them from touching the housing. I have to assume that electricity is somehow flowing up from there, and either down in the bottom that this threads into, or perhaps this entire surface here is like all of this section here is actually charged and is producing a charge. So I'm gonna get a flashlight and look down in here and see if I can figure anything else out. I don't think I have any star keys to take these off just to see what I can see, but I couldn't believe that this entire case is hot. That would just seem to not work at all for me. I might have to see what's behind this as well, but yeah, it's just a strange situation. So ultimately, I'm going to try to retighten this on my current one, and I may mess with this one a little bit since I had assumed it was broken and it's already off the car. Alright, so here's what I came up with. I decided to try an experiment and see if I could verify whether or not electricity was being generated on this body part or if it was only coming through the post. And full disclaimer, I'm a driver with some very basic wrenching skills. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just thought it was worth a shot because it didn't take any time and I had the part right here. So I hooked up a wire going from the body of the part to the motor right here. That ought to simulate what it's like to have the alternator bolted up. And then I tried down here to both just place the wire on the body and spin the alternator, and then also sandwich it with this, and I still haven't gotten any luck. The last thing I can try is actually putting it onto the threads right here, but I would not anticipate that that's any different. This feels like it's all the same material to me. I then hooked that up to the positive terminal, spun it with my impact, and put my multimeter on it. However, that did not result in any change. So in either case, none of those experiments generated any sort of electrical current to the battery. Either my wiring was just too terrible, certainly possible, or there's some other element like the ECU actually has to switch the current on somehow. And I'm not going to get into that. So next up is to raise the car and basically just try and tighten that post and see if that works. And if that does work, I'm probably going to Loctite it in there and see what we get. Alright, well, so far, outside of it being a little bit more difficult to access the alternator with the whole car together, because the last time I did this, the radiator was out, I'm pretty sure. Not too difficult. I was able to get the wire detached from the back, knowing what I know now. Now we're just pulling the rest of the bolts. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at the alternator while it's loose from the car. Oh man, I forgot how fun it is to work on your car. I'm really glad that this thing is so reliable. Right, so everything's loose, and I was just taking the last bolt off the alternator and getting ready to pull it out from under the vehicle in a very perfect and majestic manner where it totally won't get hung up and not actually be able to fit out of the vehicle with the radiator in the car. Yeah, that's what I was doing, sure. So, it's clearly been too long since I have done this project, because there is no way that that's going to fit there. It's not going to come out through here with all this crap in the way. And if you look down at the bottom, well, there's sway bars and badass suspension stuff in the way. So yeah, that's not possible. The radiator is going to have to come out. Which makes me sad because I'm really hungry and I was hoping I could get the alternator out, call that a good stopping point, and then have some grub. It's not hard to take the radiator out. It's just time consuming, and especially because if what I think is going to fix this doesn't, I'm going to have to drain it and then reinstall everything and then drain it again and buy a whole new alternator, damn it. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. There's that. I figured I'd let it drain while I go get some grub. Alright, snack time is over. Back to work. Well, I was taking this thing off, and son of a gun, this zip tie right here got me. Oh man, that zip tied life. I gotten this loose. I do want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Malcolm. He had this excellent point that it's too late this time for me, but evidently he knows from experience that while you don't really want to have to deal with getting these hoses undone, you can just unbolt the power steering pump and actually just kind of pick it up and out of the way, and it's possible to get the alternator out that way. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. He hit me up on Facebook. Unfortunately, I already have the thing apart. So maybe next time. Now that we've got plenty of room, with the alternator off, man, look at the fitment on that wheel. Anyway, with the alternator off, we can now look at trying to fix this loose post and hope that we don't have to buy a whole new alternator. So they all have this plastic cover, and if I pull these little areas, I suspect I can get that cover to release. So I'm going to attack that with a couple of picks. I bet the factory has some sort of SST that pulls all three off in a row, and I lack enough hands to do that. They put a hook behind this thing. Why would they put a hook behind this? Those mother... I'll just see if I can fit a screwdriver down in here. And so similar deal as before. This thing is loose. I'm gonna try to tighten it back down and seal it with Loctite and see if that works. Alright, now we are all clean and ready to put this back together and hope it works. If not, max frustration. Here comes some thread locker, so either this will work and be fixed, or it'll be broken and I'll replace it, and who cares. That ought not come loose ever again. Let's see, how does this go? All that work just to try that. I really hope that this fixes it. I mean, I can always just buy another one, but damn, that's a lot of work, a little bit of a pain. So that's life in the 240 and car maintenance world, especially the older your car gets. My car's been super reliable for so long that I realize I've gotten kind of soft. I haven't had to do much work to it lately. All right, that's that. So we should have everything ready to go on the car. And now we get to pry this off and see whether or not the alternator generates power. If it doesn't, then I've got to do all this over again. Buy a new alternator too. We'll see. The voltage output looked good, so it appears that tightening that little post down on the back of the alternator has restored its ability to charge. Time will only tell if it's going to be burnt out or have reduced life. I'm going to get the car running a bit better and drive it around the neighborhood and take it out to a couple of just short cruises and make sure everything is still reading right and hopefully handling right. My theory on why it's running so poorly is that it's probably quite literally out of gas. My fuel center gauge quit working a while back, and I don't even think you can buy them anymore. So I have just been filling it up full before the start of every event, and last event I forgot to fill it up. I got in a hurry and just headed on out. So as a result, I knew I was running on fumes, or I had to be pretty close. I'm gonna, I guess, bring some gas to the car and then take the car out, and hopefully I can get it running a little bit better. Well, I only had one gas container, and this is it. Some would say the car sounds like a weed eater, at least before it had the engine swap. Hey, it's Mrs. Kame Trick. Hi, babe. What's up?
Hi. Am I on video?
Yeah.
Why?
Why not?
Are you gonna edit me out?
Yeah, sure. I'll edit out the bump too. Viva!
You're so dirty.
That's why I didn't touch you. Hopefully that solves the issue with the car running poorly. If it does, I'll drive it over to the gas station and fill up the tank. Alright guys, looks like everything's good, so that's awesome. Let me know if you enjoyed this video or if it was kind of a waste of time for you. I like hanging out in the car and in the garage and working on things. But if that's super boring, then let me know, because I could actually do this repair faster if I wasn't documenting the process as I go. So if that's something you guys think was cool, let me know with a thumbs up or comment down here. And if not, let me know with a comment down there as well. I'm going to take this car up to the gas station, put some gas in it, and then maybe go for a short cruise. It's been a while since I've taken this car out on the street. Well, I was going to go for a cruise. now that I've got the alternator charging situation figured out, I didn't think there'd be any issues. But now I'm getting this instead. So yeah, no idea, but that's all I'm gonna try to film. I'd really rather just cut this video, and I'll let you guys know what it turns out to be if I can even figure it out. I doubt it'll be too hard, but it's weird to have complex issues like this. So, I mean, the car's able to start pretty easily. That would make me think the battery's fine, but I'm gonna see if I can't get a OBD2 tool or something, see if any codes are being thrown, etc. We'll figure it out. See you guys. Peace.